Hello, and welcome back to Archives of Fabella Daily, the podcast where the host who saw a microphone and went, "Ooh, I could do some real damage with this," in a magical world. Today is November 29th, equal to Sagittarius 8th. Books are available on Amazon. Please rate and review the podcast on iTunes, or wherever you listen to your podcasts, and hit that subscribe button for more great stories right in your feed. November 29th, 1776 is the date the Battle of Fort Cumberland, Nova Scotia, comes to an end with the arrival of British reinforcements. But in the magical wonderland of Fabella, a maid broke out of slavery and went right back in. I'm Dylan Foley, and this is Archives of Fabella. Beyond our world, there is love. Beyond our world, there is war. Beyond our world, there is life. Beyond our world, there is Fabella. Sagittarius 8th, 5776, FY, Fabella year, equal to September 29th, 1776, AD, Earth year. Following the start of the Halfling Revolution in Avalon, the Halflings gained full command of the village of Whitthorn, giving them a strategic foothold in their battle against prime folk in the Great Britain of the magical world. The Halflings were hoping to turn the course of the war and force Avalon to emancipate them from slavery. Among the most critical tools of the Halflings was one slave within the Avalon Palace. Slaves within the Avalon Palace were mostly female antics, blue-skinned, bug-like folk with glowing antennae. They were employed in the palace because a female antic was the smallest and least threatening person on the face of Fabella. The Halflings were targeting things like sables, dragon pens, and staging raids. The Antic's emancipation from slavery was riding on the Halfling Revolution, and providing the Halfling Revolution with crucial intel from the Avalon Palace was a 30-year-old Antic maid named Hilda Lightfoot. Hilda Lightfoot was a mole within the Avalonian Palace, supplying her husband fighting on the front lines with information on the Avalonian government's strategy. She was quite a strong and daring personality, and she did more for the Halfling Revolution than the actual soldiers did on the front lines. But Hilda had a challenge. Her only means of communicating with her husband was by using a secret enchanted book called a bookbinder. Whatever she wrote in this double binder book was magically copied over to her husband, who possessed the other binder book. But a sudden fire in the servant quarters at the palace destroyed Hilda's binder book. Without the book, Hilda and her husband were completely cut off. They wouldn't be able to communicate at all. Hilda was able to get her hands on 2 double binder books, but she needed to get to a safe house so she could send the new binder book to her husband, because the double binder books could only work as a set. But the closest safe house was located in the village of Martu, 200 miles away. Hilda would have to break out of the palace and travel to the safe house to make the exchange, then break back into the palace to retain her place as a mole without anyone finding out. She only had one option. Hilda was to go by flying broomstick. The exhausting journey could get Hilda discovered by palace officials. She would have to avoid being sighted or risk being caught, interrogated, and killed. There was a tremendous amount at stake here. but no other course of action was available to her. So, on the night of Sagittarius 8th, Hilda stole a broomstick and soared silently into the clouds. She had very little sleep, and her adrenaline kept her awake through the late-night flight. This was the mission of her life, and as she flew through the sky, Hilda encountered something that wasn't on any map. A young, royal, harpy scout of the Avalonian Air Force. If she turned around, she would arouse suspicion. So, she did the only thing she could, face the young winged scout head on. She put on a burst of speed on the broomstick to maneuver around clouds, confusing the young scout and causing him to lose track of her. Hilda made it to the safe house in Martu. There, she passed the new binder book onto her contact in the Halfling Resistance to re-establish communication with the revolutionary commanders. After carrying out her mission, Hilda turned around and flew 200 miles back to the Avalonian Palace. She managed to return to the palace and completely collapsed in exhaustion. Nobody even knew she was gone. Days later, her communication with Revolutionary Command was re-established, only for Hilda to find her husband died in battle during the intermission between communication. The Halfling Resistance was able to continue its attacks in the Avalonian Empire, all thanks to the heroism of Hilda Lightfoot. Despite the fact her story didn't lead to a completely happy ending, Hilda's story proved the difference that one person could make. After the war, halflings were emancipated in the Avalon Empire. Hilda Lightfoot was finally able to walk out of the Avalon Palace and never look back. That's going to do it for us today. Subscribe now to get more new episodes right in your feed. Rate and review the podcast on iTunes or wherever you listen to your podcasts. Send your questions to archivesoffabella@gmail.com. Archives of Fabella is created, produced, and hosted by Dylan Foley, with music by Garrett Ferris and audio blocks. Books are available on Amazon in ebook and paperback. As always, look outside of what is possible and think about what might be.